Hi, my name is Jennifer Rigdon, and I am a proud board member of the American Cancer Society in Missouri. And it's my honor today to welcome Connie Rizzo from Mercy. Now, Connie's fancy title is Medical Nutrition Therapist. Connie, tell us what that really means.
Well, a medical nutrition therapist is someone that helps people eat and looks at how you can eat so that you can have better health, whether you're going through cancer treatment. That's what I usually do, as my title entails, but I'm also the oncology outpatient dietitian here at Mercy. So I see people going through chemo, radiation, after surgery, before surgery, just to help them eat better and do better during treatment.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for working with cancer patients and those who have survived cancer so that they can lead a healthier life. That's really important. So I have a few questions for you today. I know that eating healthy and staying active is a really important part of the American Cancer Society's mission to help people understand why that's important. So can you tell us why eating healthy is so important?
Well, for example, anytime you want to feel better and do the things that you want to do, you want to have some good tools. So I tell people that if you think about it, most major diseases, whether it's cancer, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, any of those things, are caused by chronic inflammation in our body. And that chronic inflammation can be affected and reduced by eating certain foods. So eating healthy can actually make your body more resistant to disease, cut down those risk factors. 40% of cancers can be reduced just by doing different things in your life. So I really see it as an important tool to kind of make you feel better and hopefully prevent some disease.
40%, that's amazing. And that's all within our control.
It is. Now, obviously, not all of that is just food, but it's like keeping healthy, maybe looking at getting other kinds of foods like phytochemicals in your diet, things that are plant chemicals that are just found in fruits and vegetables and whole grains. I call them kind of magic chemicals because they help reduce that cancer, that heart disease, any of those things that may come into your body and have some challenges.
That's great. Now, I know you have a passion for survivorship as well. Can you tell us really briefly about that?
Yes, one of the things that I think we as health professionals realize that once people are through treatment, it doesn't mean that they're done. In fact, that's really when they start living again. So we've really got to find a way to incorporate not only those healthy ideas, healthy options for them, help them, if you will, gather those tools and really feel better.
That's great. So all of our schedules are busy, even with the pandemic. Everybody's crazy busy, maybe working at home where there might be some chocolate somewhere that we shouldn't be eating or something like that. Can you give us a couple of tips on how to eat healthy?
Sure. One of the things I first tell folks is that you really should look at getting that adequate water and keeping that around. I always kind of keep that, if you will, keep a container handy because we do forget, and especially if we're in an environment where we've had to wear masks, we've had to kind of protect ourselves, then that water is not going in. So that's the first thing of eating healthy, even though it's not just the food, it's that water. Secondly, I tell people to look at being mindful when they eat. You mentioned that chocolate around. If it's out of sight, that helps. So having handy snacks that really would be a benefit, whether it's just a bean dip with veggies or pretzels, whether it's, if you're hungry, getting a little bit of tuna, a little bit of cheese stick, some pumpkin seeds that are roasted, make it creative, but have those more in plain sight so that you can kind of do that. And do plan ahead if you can. Sometimes maybe even once a month. Think about on a day that you have off, making a large batch of something and then freezing it so that when you are kind of in that mood of, oh, I don't want to cook tonight or cook for lunch or whatever, you have something that you can just take out, thaw, and there you have a healthier option. Because I know that's what I find myself. It's that when you're really tired and you just don't want to do it, that's when you succumb to those challenges.
And it's the path of least resistance. Whatever the easiest thing is, that's what we go for. But that's not obviously the most healthy thing all of the time.
Right. And getting creative. Like, I know when my son was little, we would take eggplant and make it into French fry slices, put it with Parmesan and breadcrumbs, and actually bake them so they were like French fries. So getting creative with those fruits, vegetables, whole grains. And if you do have a time when you want a piece of chocolate, there's no harm in that, but making sure that you balance so that maybe then if you have a day that you kind of, oh, I didn't want to do that, or a week, it doesn't mean you can't get back on and get back to what you need to do.
So what I'm hearing is I need to have someone hide my chocolate. Okay, I'll do that.
It's well, and that's true. It is interesting though that they've done studies where they've shown that candy in a dish covered is not eaten as much as something that's sitting out. So it really is mindful eating when you start thinking about it. So I like people to look at ways that they can put things into their diet, become more inclusive rather than saying you can't have this or you can't have that.
And I like the idea of mindfulness because I think so many of us are multitasking and eating while we're working or eating while we're doing something else, while driving even, because and you make poor choices that way.
Well, and the other thing is your mind, if you're aware of when you're eating, they find that people who actually sit and focus on that, even for 20 minutes, that tells your brain from your stomach that you've actually eaten, you're full, you don't overeat, and people have found in studies that they're actually more satisfied. So if you can do that, stop and take that break, that's really important.
That's a great idea. So my last question for you today is, now that we're eating healthy, now that we've made all these changes, ACS also recommends about 100 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise every week, such as walking, biking, gardening, things like that. Even housework works. My question for you is, are there some exercise tips that we can do throughout the day while we're sitting at our desk?
Well, actually, there are, but I do want to mention one thing before we get into those, and that is that you really have to think about your posture when you're sitting at your desk.
Okay.
Yes, there you go. So just sitting kind of in a natural position, but you want to be facing forward. You want your shoulders, though, relaxed, so they're not tense, and that's really hard to do sometimes.
Yes.
You want your feet on the floor. So if you find you can't do that, you need a stool, do that. The other thing is your monitor height or your screen. If you can kind of have it at the top of it at your forehead level. Right. I found one time that I was looking up because I was wearing my reading glasses and I was looking up all the time and I really got neck strain. So that's kind of the first thing to think about when you're sitting at your desk. And then another thing you can do is a lot of times we get upper body tension when we're sitting for a long time and we kind of tend to hunch over and, obviously, that causes challenges. So stretching, one thing you can do is you can take your fingers and stretch out front. Now you want to kind of lean forward, get that back rounded, doesn't that feel good?
It does feel good.
Now, the other thing you can do before you let go is actually go up over your head a little bit, just to stretch a little bit.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and then just bring that down. And you can do that periodically, and that can be just while you're sitting. You can also get that tension out by doing some neck rolls, but you want to kind of keep your abdomen tight so you can keep that core and doing those. One last one for upper body is kind of this fist up and then back a little bit, up and back a little bit, and it kind of helps that back if you can. So I've even had physical therapists tell me that, you know, I always tell people to get up and move after about an hour of sitting. Some physical therapists say even a half an hour. So it's that longevity of sitting for too long, and that can kind of get your lower body moving, just to even, you know, go get some water, go get a healthy snack, you know, something to kind of recharge. But doing that kind of thing can really help.
Well, those are all great tips, and I already feel better. I'm going to have to do more of this. So, Connie Rizzo, I want to thank you so much for being part of our very first society chat. And thank you for sharing such great tips. And finally, thank you for all of the great work you do with those who are facing a cancer diagnosis and who are survivors of a cancer diagnosis. We couldn't do the work we do at American Cancer Society without people like you. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate the American Cancer Society also. The amount of research and things that they do makes us all a great team. So I appreciate that from our patients and from us to you too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.